Good morning. Welcome to Northwest Unitarian Universalist Church, where we are gathering both virtually and in person as one connected community. I am Jim Moyer. My pronouns are he, him, and I'll be your worship leader for this morning's service. I'm joined by Reverend Julie Brock and Tom Ballou. If you are a visitor online and would like Northwest to stay in touch with you, please fill out the visitor form appearing in the chat box. If you are with us in person, you can fill out the visitor sign-in form out in the atrium. So now, please greet your neighbors wherever you are. Hello, neighbors.
Y'all, we only have 2 announcements. Maybe 3. They are where the services are going to be. So next week, we are going to be here at Northwest again. And the week after that, we are either going to the DIA or going to have an online only service. That's a little bit up in the air. Check your newsletters. So where are we next week? Pastor Eli's preaching. Where are we the week after? Yeah, I know, we don't know. Good job, good job. And the week after that, the 13th, we're at Farmington. We're all gonna go to Farmington. So, good to see you all this morning. The other thing for you to know is that y'all, I'm actually taking a vacation. It's very exciting. I'm going to be some form of gone for all of July. If you have pastoral care needs, reach out to Mary. If you have worship questions, reach out to Diana. Please note that Abby has just started and I will be a little bit gone, so be very, very gentle with her. All right, we're in agreement? All right, all right. And the last thing to know is there is a congregational meeting today after service. Woo! Who's excited about the congregational meeting? Yes, democracy in action. Let's do it. So please stay for the congregational meeting. I now invite you into an hour of respite outside the demands of daily life. Let us take a moment to center and be together while we listen to this lovely prelude. Todd, how dare you tempt me by playing Wicked where there are microphones around?
The flaming chalice is a symbol of our faith. We light it knowing this morning that many other Unitarian Universalist congregations across this land and around the world are doing the same. We light our chalice with words from Northwest UU's mission statement. Please repeat after me. We light this flame to grow in spirit, knowledge, and action. Accept and challenge one another. To support each other in times of joy and need.
And each week we offer a land acknowledgement. We honor and pay our respects to the land on which we live and work, which was violently stolen through colonialism, genocide, and the forced removal of its traditional stewards. These stewards are the Anishinaabe, the Council of Three Fires, which include the Ottawa, Ojibwe, and Potawatomi people, also known as the Ottawa, Chippewa, and Potawatomi tribes. We also acknowledge people of African descent who were forcibly removed from their land and separated from their families through kidnapping and enslavement. We pay reverence and respect to them for building the country's infrastructure and economy with no compensation or reparations to date. You all now rise in body or spirit and sing with me number 298, Wake Now My Senses.
This month, Northwest's community partner is Ruth Ellis Center. Ruth Ellis Center offers support and affirmation to those in need who need it most through comprehensive housing, health, and wellness services. All undesignated donations will be split between Ruth Ellis Center and our congregation. You can give in a variety of ways. which are now visible on your screen for those here in person. We will pass a collection basket for checks and cash. There is also a QR code on your order of service. We honor your generosity, ensuring that our collective resources do a greater good for ourselves and our world than any of us have done individually.
Mary Linda is doing the basket thing. Would you be able to sub in for Joys and Sorrows or find out where she is? I don't. Linda does. So we're going to take a brief moment to go find out what's going on with our Joys and Sorrows basket. But in the meantime, I wonder if we could all take a moment of silence for the people of Tehran. I wonder if we could all take a moment of silence for all of those whose lives are ravaged by war, by military might, by conflicts they did not create. I wonder if we could take a moment for the lives we are choosing to lose. I was just taking a moment of silence for all the nonsense in the world.
This is so I look normal. Hi, I'm Linda Morris. My pronouns are she and her, and I'm a member of the pastoral care team. I don't know, this doesn't seem right, but when I announce there's all this stuff about who to call, but it's not on here. So if you guys need anything, contact the pastoral care or pastoral care at Northwest UU, right? Okay. If I read your joy or sorrow, raise your hand. Well, there's only one here, and she's not here. So this is from Vanessa Washington, and she would like us to know that her father passed away recently, and she was doing a lot of care with her father, so maybe that'll free her up a little bit to come back to church soon, because I know a lot of us really miss her. So we're thinking about you, Vanessa. For these and the joys and sorrows that are held in the silent sanctuary of our hearts, I offer this prayer. Sources of radiance and resilience, keep watch with those who work or watch or weep this night. May the suffering be soothed, may the sick be tended, may the weary find rest. May the dying and those who love them find peace. May the joyous be shielded, and may all know that we are surrounded in a love that is with us always, a web that connects us all to all that exists. May we take a few moments of silence to be with each other in the sacred space. We will come out singing.
Hi, I'm Jim Gobeski. This is a reading called The Healing in Freedom by Reverend Gretchen Haley. Freedom has a rhythm to it, a longing our bodies know without words, of movement away from everything small and scared, a waking up to possibility, healing backwards and forwards. Even now, we are beginning again, unafraid of this much mercy, tenderness, pleasure. We come to lean in, to learn the sound of liberation, like the sound of our names, receiving and releasing. We come to be free for more than ourselves, to call love the greatest liberty, to sing of loyalty, courage, and kindness, to remember we are all doing the best we can. Despair hasn't gotten us yet, nor overwhelmed, which is a kind of miracle, surrounded as we are by this much beauty. Now, if you'll please join in singing. Not used to this. If you'll please join in singing hymn number 1040. If you could stand as you're willing and able.
It working? Hello, hello? Okay, it is working? All right, great. So I accidentally sent the worship script this week to Jim Gobeski instead of Jim Moyer. And I said, hey, I put your reading in there. And Jim Gobeski said, I don't think this is for me, but this is great. I'd love to read it. And I called up Jim Moyer, and he was like, listen, it's a service about calling if he feels called to do it. Calling's a weird concept in Unitarian Universalism, isn't it? Us ministers, man, we're always asked to tell our call story. And like, you know, you get in a room of other pastors, and they're like, I was on the road to Damascus. And we're kind of like, well, I was working a job I wasn't really satisfied by and going to church a lot, so I thought I'd apply to seminary, and then the finances worked out. And it feels less satisfying. But I think that that's because that we have not been trained to hear our callings in the multitude of ways that the universe provides them. So I thought today, I would tell you my call story. And then maybe we can talk about what we're all called to from that information. This is usually a sermon that I give right when I start a new church, but I was doing double sermons for y'all in Detroit, and Detroit has heard this one. So I apologize to Autumn, you've probably heard this before. I apologize to Colin, you've probably heard this one before, Stacy. But we're gonna go with it. All right, so for a not insignificant period of my life, it was my job to put on pretty costumes and get applause every day. I was working as a 22-year-old actress in the city of Chicago, and I thought that there could not be anything more perfect for my overly dramatic, overly egotistical 22-year-old soul than being an actress in the city of Chicago. Nothing could possibly fit my life better. I was exactly where I was supposed to be until a 23-year-old guitarist broke my heart, as 23-year-old experimental funk guitarists are wont to do. And suddenly, there was not enough room in the city of Chicago, all of the millions of people, for both him and me, and I needed to get out. I called my friend, my best friend, and I was like, Naomi, help me. And she was like, hey, I am in southern Mississippi right now, living with my weird hippie mom who decided to pack up the entire family and do Katrina rehab work. So you could come down here and hang out, but that's all I can offer you. And I was like, well, I could go to the beach, and I could go to the beach, and I could read some books on the beach. So I got in a Greyhound, and I took the 12-hour trip from Chicago to Waveland, Mississippi. And I fell asleep on the way down there, and I woke up, and my head was pressed against this glass, and outside there was rippling waves on a beautiful Gulf, and on the other side of the road there were these big mansions that had already been rebuilt, and I was like, what's the rebuilding? Everything seems pretty good down here. And then we turned off the road where people could afford a beachfront property. And there were folks that had tarps for roofs, didn't have their water turned on. This was 2 years after the storm, y'all. I felt this inkling in me, this pulling, and then I was like, no, that's not what we're here for. You are here to indulge yourself. Don't listen. So I get off and I greet my friend Naomi. She takes me back to the volunteer camp, which is basically this church, right? And I can't believe it. I get off the bus, and there I see my friend Adam, who I know from Michigan, randomly in this volunteer spot in Waveland, Mississippi. And I go up to him, I'm like, Adam, what are you doing here? It's so nice to see you. And he looks at me and he says, can you drive? And I was like, what? Drive? What do you mean drive? He's like, yes. Can you legally operate a motor vehicle? Do you have a license? Can you drive? I was like, I mean, yeah, what's going on? He's like, listen, Julie, I am trying to rebuild a house for a woman who is 7 months pregnant so she doesn't have to give birth in a FEMA trailer. And all of my materials are donated, and all of my labor is volunteer. And this week, I have 13-year-old Girl Scouts helping me out. And I have a huge shipment of supplies my buddy's willing to give me in New Orleans, but I can't leave the site and leave them on the site, and none of them can go get it. So I'm asking, can you drive? And I thought, oh man, if I say no to this, I am letting down a pregnant lady, my friend from back home, and a whole bunch of Girl Scouts. So I got in the car, and it was kind of easy. He put the thing in the GPS. It was a beautiful bridge I drove over. Some dudes loaded up the truck. I didn't have to do much. I came back to the volunteer center that night. And then I noticed as we were all eating in the cafeteria that the diversity in that place was wild. It blew any UU congregation I've ever been to out of the water. There were people from different ethnic walks of life, different races. There were people who had completely different beliefs and politics, but they had a common goal. We aren't going to let our neighbors suffer anymore. I was like, this is amazing. And then I felt that sort of pull kind of get me again. And I was like, nope, 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 nope. Here to indulge, stop. You did your good deed, you're going to the beach tomorrow. But the next day, Adam asked if I could help again. And the thing was, I could. And the next day, and the day after that, and the day after that, and y'all, I did not think I could be happy anywhere that didn't have public transportation and a Democratic voting record. Mississippi spoke to my soul. It spoke to my soul. We ate the most wonderful things, fresh caught catfish, peaches and greens, literally picked from people's yard. People would just pick up musical instruments because the Wi-Fi was constantly going out in the volunteer center. We would talk to each other and create, and y'all, the church, listen, they did not have a Unitarian Universalist congregation in Cleveland, Mississippi, so I ended up going to this little congregational place. And I don't think I theologically agreed with anything the pastor said, but my God, the singing. My God, the singing. There was vibrato that echoed the whims of the seraphim, I swear to God. I eventually ended up calling back home and giving up what most actresses prize more than anything, a spot at a high-end restaurant on the Gold Coast. And I stayed in Mississippi for 5 months. 5 months, literally building the community. And I did eventually get to the beach. I did eventually get to the beach, and I saw the most beautiful sunsets I've ever seen in my life. And I laid under that sun, and I prayed. I prayed a lot. That's my thing. It doesn't have to be yours, but it's mine. And I said, listen, God, I want to just feel as expansive as this ocean and as grounded as I feel in the sand right now, always, always, always. This is my lesson. This is what I came here to learn. And the universe was like, listen, you're not learning the right lesson. This is not about you. I think I'm going to have to be a little more clear. Because the very next day, I went back to the site, and that day we were building a roof, putting a roof on a house. So we were actually nailing in those trusses. Y'all know what a truss is, those big triangle things? Yeah, we were nailing those on top of the house. And the houses we were building were all on 30-foot hurricane stilts. 30 feet, and then 2 floors, and then a roof. And we didn't have a crane, so somebody was like, all right, this is what we're gonna do. We're gonna stand the truss up on its side, and one person's gonna stand on this part of the wall of the house, and another person's gonna stand on this wall of the house. Everyone on the ground is gonna push. This person's gonna tilt. That person's gonna catch and nail it in. And I was like, good luck. I could not even get to the top of a ladder most days. I was usually the one organizing the people and volunteers and supplies on the ground, did a good bit of sweeping, was not the person to go on the ladder. It was fine, they didn't need me, because that week they had AmeriCorps volunteers, and one of them was a literal real-life lumberjack. So he spent his life running around in trees, He's like, I got this, no problem. Except his team lead said, you got this, no problem, if we can harness you in. And he said, what? And the team lead said, according to AmeriCorps rules, you cannot be more than 30 feet in the air unless you are harnessed into something that is more than 10 feet above your head. So you can't stand up there with nothing above your head. And Adam said, okay, so let's get one done, and then we'll harness Brian in, and he can do we'll harness him to the, okay? And they all looked around, and the only people on the site that were not AmeriCorps volunteers were Adam, me, and the woman who was now at this point 8.5 months pregnant. And I was like, no, no. I cannot physically do that. I can't physically be too scared. And Adam looked straight at me and he said something like that came from that place when you know you're getting like a direct universal lesson. He looked at me and he was like, this is not about you. And I tried. So I tried. It took me 3 eternities. 3 eternities. 1 to get up the ladder, 1 to move my shaking legs from the ladder to the 2x4 in the air I wanted to stand on, and the other eternity to stand up. And by that time, Adam was so impatient that he just yelled, catch! And suddenly something far too large to catch was coming at me. And all I could do was throw my hands up in the air and watch as they guided it into my hand. I got off that house as soon as I could, and Adam and Brian harnessed themselves in and did the rest of the roof in less than the amount of time it took me to do the one. And I just remember, I don't think my body has ever felt that physically scared before. And I remember just laying back, soaking in the Mississippi mud and letting the southern sun pound on me and feeling the fear release from my body into the earth. As I looked up and literally watched people build the beloved community. And I knew I wasn't going to be an actress forever. But it took me like 3 more months, or 3 more years, before I tried to go to seminary. Because there was just something pulling on me. I finally let myself let go and pay attention to that thing that was hooking me. But it still felt weird, the idea of a minister, right? It felt weird that there was like one person whose voice was like, ordained by God while others weren't. It felt weird to me. But after spending like 20 hours a week at church and trying to work at a nonprofit and really just wanting to be to church all the time, I decided to go to seminary. And at seminary, I stayed in UC Berkeley graduate housing. And it was funny, in the cafeteria, everyone seemed to sit next to people that they had a degree, like the degrees sat together, like whatever you were studying. But I was the only theological student, because UC Berkeley didn't have a theological program. I was going to the Graduate Theological Union down the street, and they were just letting me stay there. So I looked around the cafeteria, and I'm like, who's the closest to the theologians? I'll sit with the physicists. So I sat with the physicists, and it was probably the best decision of my life. They gave me so much grounding and perspective for all of the things that I was trying to learn. I would go to them and say, oh, man, I'm just grappling with this concept of a being with a sentience like mind that is like directing things and cares about football scores. Like, I can't get my head around that, but I feel like maybe there's something, right? Like something? And they were like, well, why does the being have to have a sentience like this? Why does it have to be a being? Like, think about it. A bacteria has a biological imperative, right? That could be seen as a kind of sentience. And our human minds, we can't imagine the vastness of this universe. And most of us agree that there are infinite ones of these. So it is very probable that there is something out there that is so big to us that it is kind of like the bacteria considering us. And you might be able to call it sentience, or you don't have to. But the point is, we're just studying the bits and pieces that we get of it and not trying to understand it in its fullness. And I'm like, ooh, that's good. They're like, we'll do function, we'll do form, you continue to do function. And then I came back to them and I was like, Buddhist impermanence is happening. Buddhist impermanence. So what, we're trying to figure out what self is. And they're like, oh yeah. Yeah, the self is like anatomically really hard to like describe and figure out. It's not really a separate thing. And I'm like, well, biologically it is, right? And they're like, well, I mean, kind of, there's a better case for it, but the cells regenerate before a human dies. I'm like, well, is it the sentience then? The conscience is the self? And they're like, listen, we can't even, you're trying to figure out like vast universal consciousness. We can't even pin down human consciousness. You know, human beings have amnesia and they go into comas. So like, is a person who is elderly, who doesn't have any of their memories or cells and has all of these shared anatomical parts, the same thing as they were when they were 5 years old. Like, what is the self? And so I'm sitting there having all of these deep theological conversations with all of these people who are just not worried about it because science is describing that we're all in this like weird cosmic eternal entanglement of atoms and stardust. And they just accept it, and I'm trying to figure it out. And we're talking, and then I go to school, and I take a process theology class. Hold on, I'm gonna get a drink of water. I'm still not 100% better, I guess. I take a process theology class. And I know I've talked about this before, but I'm gonna talk about it again because it's my favorite kind of theology. Process theology says that everything is in process, that the universe is moving and constantly changing and inherently connected. So, once something happened, it was the Big Bang, it was first thought, it was first matter, it was God. And then a whole bunch of other things started to happen afterwards. People had ideas. Organisms evolved. Humans made societies. And everything that has ever happened is connected to this first thing that happened. And everything that ever will happen is a point in quantum entanglement informing everything that will happen after this. And you all are a point in that web. It's almost like they were saying there is an interdependent web of existence of which we are all a part. I was really excited about it, and I went and talked to the physicists about it, and I'm like, this is gonna blow your mind. And they're like, oh, yeah, that's really scientifically sound. I mean, essentially what it's saying is we are what we are in this moment. Our atoms are made up of the same stardust that created all things, and they'll go into what happens continuously in the closed system that is our universe of matter and energy. And we are going to affect, we are not exactly what we were a moment ago. We have new memories, we have new being, and we're not exactly what we're gonna be tomorrow. We're going to affect most closely the things that we are next to in time and space, including the thing that we could call ourselves. We are constantly shifting the universe. And here's the thing. That means, oh, so wait, no. So I said to the scientists, okay, so then is there meaning in that, right? Because this weird form, borrowed universal stuff, it could be different in another universe. This could have just happened. And I'll never forget this guy, Daniel. He said to me, sure. And in a lot of other universes, something else did happen. But this is the one that we get to experience. And that's at least scientifically meaningful. So y'all, we sitting here are the culmination of billions of years of universal machination put together exactly as we are. Exactly as we are. And we are going to affect everything that happens for the rest of the life of this universe, sometimes in big ways if we are close to it, in proximity, in time, and sometimes in small ways, but everything we do matters. Our intentions put more love and joy or fear into this big universal cosmic entanglement. And to me, that's all ministry is. It's putting more love and intention into that cosmic entanglement, which means we all are ministers. We are all ministering to something. I just went to school to be clergy. So then you're asking probably, okay, so I'm sitting here, you're sitting there with purpose, that only you can do, that calling. You have one. The universe is crying out to the parts of you that it put together for a specific reason, or the universe happenstance made you this way, maybe not on purpose. You happenstance were made this way, and only you have the perspectives and lessons and stories to do what you can do on this planet. Only you. You have a calling, and it's what's important that we listen to that inkling, that thing that pulls us. And you might be saying, how? How do I do that better? I think you have to listen to what makes you curious, what piques your interest. Because listen, not all of us can follow our calling for a living, but all of us can bring our calling to what we do for a living. We need to start paying attention to the times that our heart skips a beat. We need to start paying attention to the things that make us go, look at that. We need to start paying attention to what in conversations with other people makes us go, I'm in, I'm hooked, I could stay here all night. Because those are the things that you specifically need to dive into. And look, it's not hard, it's not easy, and I don't have perfect knowledge about how to do it. But I do know, and some scientists would agree, that all of it is about relationship. All of it is about relationship. And so it's done best, this kind of searching, it's done best in community. I can't tell you how to do it perfectly, but I can tell you the only thing that I've ever seen work again and again and again, if you're feeling listless and purposeless, want to follow your calling. Go stand somewhere that makes you feel really, really uncomfortable. Raise your hands up and get ready to catch something too big to hold. And just trust that your community and the Spirit will guide what needs to be given to you into your hands. Will you rise and join me in singing our final hymn, which is, you gotta do when the Spirit says do. It's in the teal hymnal. Do one more time. You got to do what the Spirit says do. You got to do what the Spirit says do. What the Spirit says do, you got to do. Oh Lord, Spirit says do. 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 Spirit says do.
The Spirit says we will extinguish our chalice.
All right.
Please repeat after me. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of hope.
We extinguish this flame, but not the light of hope.
The warmth of community,
The warmth of community,
or the fire of commitment.
or the fire of commitment.
These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
These we are doing our hearts till we are together again. So the next time you're wondering if that thing that you can't get out of your head is a weird obsession, it's not. It's what your spirit is calling for you to pay attention to the next time you're wondering if you should be spending all of your time doing this thing that doesn't necessarily seem productive. Absolutely, you should be doing exactly that. In fact, we need you to, so long as it's not harming anyone else. There's a quote that's attributed to Howard Thurman that I'm sure you all have heard, and it's, don't ask what the world needs, ask what makes your spirit come alive, because what we really need are people who are truly alive. So let's check in with each other and ask, how is it with your spirit? What do you need in order to fulfill your calling, or even just to think about it a little bit more? You all are shiny, beautiful beings, and the world is brighter when you shine. Let's encourage each other to do that. You're worth it. You're worth it. You are worth it.